Hello, hello.
Hello there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you hear me good?
Yes,
Oh
yes.
my God, so good to see you.
So good to see you too. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait. I could not wait for this conversation.
Hmm.
So Instagram's been acting a little wacky.
Yeah, yeah, because there's a few people going live and I keep seeing part three, part four. I was like, oh no, not this crap. So hopefully tonight. So far, I've had good luck with this. I haven't maybe one time that happened on a live, but other than that, I haven't had
Yeah.
no screw ups.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, we're gonna leave it like this. We're gonna leave it like this because this is
Right.
insane. So. Oh my God. Like, yeah, well, this is with you and me, this is going back to like 2020. This is why it's like, wow, so
Yeah, for
much.
real. For real. Yes, definitely. Um it seems like a longer time than maybe it has been too,
Hmm.
um because like we came across each other at a time in history like where it was just so much going on, right? Not just in the world but also on Instagram. and
Right, yeah.
and so a lot has happened. A lot has happened. Yeah. So I'm glad to be here
Word.
though. I'm glad
Yes.
that you got in touch with me, that you found me, because I really wasn't trying to be found. And yeah, I really, I just wasn't trying hard. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. No, I
Yeah.
get that. It's so crazy because so much has happened during that time.
Yeah.
I feel like if it's one thing 2020 definitely taught me is that when you're in a place where you can't really do much and it's just you and what you're used to is taken away from you, your real true colors are going to come out.
Oh yes.
And that's the reality of it. And that's what I think definitely happened this year. Even in the Christian world, a lot of true colors were shown,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of things were exposed. A lot of pastors were, a lot of
Yes.
scandals, but also even like in
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
just the sickness, everything was just insane. But I think the greatest thing about 2020 is it did bring a lot of us together while we was in the midst of that because we was doing
Yeah.
these lives every day.
I know.
I remember it is funny because a lot of these platforms that did exist at that time no longer exist, which is crazy to me. And
Okay.
I'm like, oh wow, so much has happened, so much has changed. But yeah, yeah, I
Wow.
believe when I think when you and I first met each other there, I think you were part of Anti-Poetic Revolution, if I'm
Oh,
not mistaken.
oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. That we are going like way back. Yeah, most definitely. Yes. And that has well, I'm sure like everything, right, has shifted. It shifted a lot when I was there.
Yeah,
When I was in on that platform. Um but yeah, that was the first time someone asked me to be on their platform. And I actually loved that platform. When I was on it, I had a good time. I had a good time.
oh man, I remember those days. Yeah, because it was so authentic too. Because I'm the kind of person I didn't just go to anybody's platform. I was very
Right.
careful about who I
Right.
interacted with. And you and along with everybody that was there at the time
Yeah.
definitely were one of those people that you guys really were about the poetry. And it's just crazy
Oh
how
yeah.
so much has changed. And speaking of platforms, I know you do the Sowing Seeds Within. Why don't you talk to me about that?
Oh, sure, sure. Well, thank you for giving me a moment to talk about that. So it's a new platform, and it was specifically created to share this work that I'm beginning to do with women of color, um, teaching them like how creative writing and poetry and just writing in general helps and has helped to heal me, to help me to let go of a lot of things, um, to help me grow in ways that I didn't think that I was able to grow. Um, And so it is a safe space for us. And I like to explain, why it is for women of color, right? Because there will always be somebody that will say, well, that is excluding people. And no, it's not. It is being inclusive of people who felt as if though nobody else understood them but their
Mm.
sisters, right? um and also, like every culture, we all have different traumas, right? Some of our traumas are the same, but a lot of our scars, they come from different places in our history.
Mm.
And so I wanted to be able to be available in a way in which I was most knowledgeable, in a way that I had the most wisdom. And being a woman of color, a Black woman, a melanated woman, right, is where I have the most experience, right? So that's why. So it's not excluding anyone. It's that I wanted to be able to help the women because I knew the place where they were coming from,
Mm.
where they're coming from,
Mm.
right? And I respect that about all cultures. I don't feel any kind of way if I see something that says, you know, Organization for Jewish Women. I don't feel any kind of way about that, right?
Right, right,
I'm like, good for them. Good for them. I don't feel any kind of way when it says LGBTQ community, right?
right,
Good for them. Why would I feel any kind of way? Why would I feel anything but love for that? Because
right,
obviously you're sharing an experience that you feel that only you really know about because you're living it, right?
right, right,
So I don't hate on anything. I don't hate on anything that anybody's doing out of love for their culture, because of their history, because of their challenges I might not have, right?
right, right. Yeah.
So that's what it is. So it includes a free WhatsApp community where I put up discussion prompts on Wednesdays. I put up writing prompts on Fridays, and I leave you alone to do your thing. If you want to share, you can share. If you don't, you don't have to do that. If you don't want to engage, you don't have to engage. But it's the prompts are there for you to do with what you feel most comfortable. And then I also offer one-on-one sessions. If people feel like they want to spend an hour with me, working their way through something very specific in their lives, right? That they may not want to share in a community, right? So it requires a level of trust, you know, um, especially them for me, right? It requires a level of trust, and I take that very seriously. So whatever happens in those sessions, stays in those sessions,
Right,
right?
right. Like whatever's in the room stays in the room. I definitely agree with
Right.
that. That's the confidentiality aspect of the, and that's why I do this too. And everybody I interact with, I always say, yeah, whatever's in the room stays in the room. I think that's definitely important because you want people to trust you. That no matter what happens, you're always gonna have that lasting relationship with the
Right.
people you interact with because you want people to be able to trust you. Because if you're just doing whatever and then people are not trusting you with it, then it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, there is none. There is no point, right? And without trust, I don't really see a point in really anything. So if you are seeking what your higher purposes are, right? Um, then you need to consider, am I someone that can receive the information, the hurt, the pain, the tears, the joy, the insecurities of other people, right? And lock it up inside my heart, right? And keep it safe and hold it safe, right? I mean, that's what holding space is all about. A lot
Amen.
of people like to say that phrase, I'm holding space, right? But do they really know what that means to hold
Mm.
space?
Come
You know,
on, let's go. Let's go.
right? Yeah,
No, but it's so true. One thing I've learned about doing what I do is it's a responsibility,
it is.
right? It's an because I look at it, this is such an intimate situation too, because maybe there's a place that people just don't know where to go to. So if we could be the ones to provide the space,
Right,
then but the thing is, I always believe in you can't have provision if there's no purpose, if that makes
right,
sense.
right, right,
Because
right.
without
Yes,
purpose, there's
right.
no end goal for that.
Yes,
And I love what you said, because one thing I notice, and this is just everywhere too, every form of community, whether it's on here or even at work or whatever the case is,
yeah,
or even in life, people like the idea of something, but they don't
yeah,
understand the responsibility of what
right,
that is, to maintain what it is and to
right,
provide what that is. Because
right,
even in the things of God, right? Everybody likes the idea of, yeah, I'm a Christian too, but there's a responsibility you have to live up to. It's not about
right,
the religion, it's about the relationship. But people don't understand that, right?
right.
Because there's a responsibility, there's a trust that
Yes,
comes with that, and you
yes.
violate that trust, then everything else does not really make any sense.
Right,
And it's
right,
and the whole inclusive thing you said was very interesting too, because I don't think it's exclusive. I think it's inclusive, because who's to say, let's say, for example, okay, I'm a man, I come across this page. Oh, now it gives me perspective, because maybe there's something I never understood
right,
before. And I think that's good
right.
that you do that, because they're like, oh, okay, there's a perspective
Yes,
here. I never saw it like that, because you're coming through a person of experience that understands all that stuff. And it's
exactly.
like, oh, crap. Okay, now I get it, because now there are people who are talking about it,
Right,
and that's what it comes down to. There's conversations that need to
right.
be had, and
That's
that's
right.
very important.
That's right. Very true. Very true. I just, like I've been around long enough um to know what questions need to be answered before they're asked. You know,
Amen.
and and so, you know, unfortunately, lots of times people of color come across this question as to why is there an association for Black alumni, of a
Mm,
university, right? Why is there, an African American society of this? But
mm,
but
mm,
what you need to understand is that what we're doing is filling a void, you see. And so if there was never a void,
mm,
then it doesn't
mm,
have to be filled. You understand
mm,
what I'm saying? So it's like you're
come
asking me,
on.
why is there water in this container? Right? Right? Because within me there's a void that requires it. So there wouldn't need to be, we would have to go back too far to reverse this. Okay, so if we were always included, okay, then there wouldn't be a void. All right. So
Mm,
when we get asked questions like that, to us it's like, don't you understand? There was a void.
mm,
So I'm
mm,
filling the void. We're filling the void because we weren't allowed in these places. So let's
mm,
not act like we don't know our history. We are all
mm,
Americans. Okay.
mm,
Okay. So we get a little exhausted of that question,
mm,
because no, we're not trying to keep you out, but was there not a time when we were kept out, right? And
Let's
there's many
go.
ways of doing that, even though the law says, well, you can't do that. right?
Mm.
But there's many other ways of blocking people out of where you don't want them to be, you know. So
Mm.
so Andy, you know me, like, listen, if I'm not anything, I'm real. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're either going to love where I'm coming from, right? Or you're not. And it's okay. But one thing that I feel is that when I'm done saying what I say, writing what I write, I'm like, I'm good. I'm good, right?
Mm.
Because this is true. This is truth,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So I wanted to address that before it was asked, for the 1 millionth time, you know.
Right, right. No, no, and I get that. That is so powerful that you broke it down the way you did. And I was thinking about something. I believe it was Morgan Freeman. He said something. He said, "Listen, Black history is American history. Let's just stop calling it like this is what it is, right? Because everybody, you know, separates, does this, that, but at the end of the day, it's still part of this American history. Same
Oh,
thing, Hispanic
definitely.
culture. It's still part of culture. And I think and you did mention something that I love too about people forgetting where they come from. Let's not act like we don't know. No, we do know. You know what the problem is too? People forget where they come from. They
Right.
forget where
Right.
they were at one point to get to where they're at today, and then it's like, oh, you don't know nothing no more.
Yeah.
Come on, like you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I love that. I love
Well,
that. No, it's so true.
well, I mean, the question is, Andy, are they forgetting? Like, are they really forgetting, or are they placing it in the back of their minds, right, where they can't see it any longer? But
Mm,
but are they really forgetting? Like, that can be a really good excuse, but then again, it's not so good of an excuse anymore.
right, right.
Right. But I definitely want to agree with you that the whole point of where I think a lot of Black people are trying to get to with the work that we're doing, right, is so that the question doesn't have to be asked, is so that you understand that, yes, my history is American history, right? Two, two, right? So I think that we're trying to get there, but look how look how long it's taken for so many other things to happen. We're
Yeah.
talking about hundreds of years. So I don't want people to act as if though things changed overnight just because there were laws put into
Right,
place.
right, right.
Right? That just means that blatantly we can't do or say certain things, right? But it doesn't mean that undercover, I'm still not trying to keep you out, though.
Mm,
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
Because you can change a law, but you can't change a heart.
Mm, wow. Wow.
So we have to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like saying, we're gonna regulate righteousness. Like you can't
You
really do
can't
that, because
really, right.
righteousness is a choice. Righteousness is a
Right.
choice. It's not a requirement. It's like, I mean, should we all have righteous hearts? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Does everybody do it? No.
no.
Like,
No, no, and oh, I wanted to touch on, you were talking about how so many things were being exposed
yeah.
now, right? We're still in that time of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The unraveling, right? It's the name of your show, the
Yeah.
unraveling of a lot of people's, loose threads.
Yeah.
Okay, like, it's all in the news, right?
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of people being exposed, and it doesn't surprise me. However, though, it does when you talked about purpose, right? However, it does give me a bit of righteous anger, because when you stand in front of people as a spiritual leader or a mentor, right? Look at me, how successful I became. And I grew up in the projects, right? I worked so hard, right? Okay, so you're giving all these speeches about what people should be doing to have your success, when really you were doing a whole lot of other things.
Mm,
You know,
yeah,
you were doing a whole lot of other things for that, right? So
it's true.
that's the part, because celebrities and very wealthy people want to say, we shouldn't be role models for your children. Okay, but it's our children that's making you rich, though, because I'm not
Mm,
buying your music. Okay, so somebody's making you rich, right? It's our
yeah.
children. I mean, statistically, they show that, right? So
Wow.
15, 16-year-olds buy more music than people your age and people my age. We think a long time before we spend money, right?
That's true.
Teenagers don't. So when celebrities try to cop out by saying, I shouldn't be your child's role model, but you didn't have a problem being my child's idol, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny because idolatry is such an interesting, so
Oh
many
yeah.
directions we can take that to. Because I always looked at idolatry as something you keep focus on. Like in my case,
Mhm.
I'm considered a born again Christian, so it's like anything that you put in front of you that you focus on that's not God
Yeah.
is your idol,
Right.
right? Anything you worship that's not God, it's your idol,
It's your
right?
idol. Right.
and
Right.
and and we idolize these things, but you know what I think the issue is, at least that's one of the issues. I think that one of the issues is those things that we idolize, right, that doesn't give us value, it's only temporary, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because let's say we die, this stuff, this skin, this
Right.
body, our it stays down here. We can't take
Yeah.
that with us.
Yeah. Right. 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 It has an expiration date, right?
Hmm.
And it's stamped the moment that we get here. Okay.
Amen. Amen.
So we don't know when, um but we know that it's not meant to be here forever. We know it's temporary, right? So that's really anything that we can visually see, right? So if you can see it, right, eventually it's going to go away.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So that which is real is the unseen, right? The unseen. But everything we see eventually, is going to end up in somebody's trash. I don't care how much we love it right now, right?
Hmm.
Right.
Mm.
Like, for example, like, I'm ready to turn this iPhone in and get a new one. You know what I'm saying? Why? Why? Not for any good reason. Not for any good reason. It's working perfectly fine. No, just because I'm like a whole lot of people. Okay, I want the new thing. Maybe something is wrong with this. I don't know, right? but really, I just want the new thing. But when I first got this, and it was the new thing,
Yeah.
right? I was ecstatic about it, you know? So so that which is seen is always temporary in some way, right? It's going to be recycled, trashed, upcycled, whatever, but it's not permanent, right? It's the
Mm.
things that we cannot see, right? That are real.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's so okay. So I'm trying to digest all of this because this is so good. And it's so true because yeah, like you said, whatever you can't see, it's real. Oh man, that is wow. Wow. And it's interesting too because I think that's like if we could just come into a realization that what's more important
Hmm.
than, because I think, because I think what it is too, right? like what you're doing with your page, right? The Sowing Seeds Within, right? The reason why I feel like something like that wouldn't be temporary, it would be forever, is because even when you grow into how you want it to grow, when
Mhm.
we're not here anymore,
Mhm.
other people who now runs the page or runs the
Right,
program, they'll be like, oh, I remember who first started this thing and the
right,
vision that this person
right.
had. You know, think about it, that's
Yes.
how businesses start too, right? Because
Oh yeah,
CVS and all
yeah.
these other places started a certain way. They all started from the bottom up.
Right,
And again,
right,
there's a story behind that. So there was a reason and a purpose behind why you created that platform. And I think that's
right.
important because when something has a history, then you leave a legacy behind. I
Yes,
think that's always important.
yes, right. And so when you talk about these things, so like for example, let me give you an example of what I mean when I say that which we see isn't real, but that which is unseen is. Okay, so let's take for example your lovely wife. Okay, when you look at your lovely wife, yes, of course she's there, but what you love about her, right, are the things that are within her spirit and essence and
Mm,
soul that are everlasting. That's what you love about her. Okay. The way she cares for you. Do you see that? Can that be physical? Right? The way you care for one another, the support, the understanding when you need it, the encouragement when you need it, the courage, the cheers when you need it. You can't see any of that, right? You can't
mm,
see any of that. Now, it's coming from this beautiful being that you can see right now. But
right.
all of that is still going to be there, though, because all of that was
Mm,
there before the physical. All right.
mm,
So, so then let's break it down. So, if we're talking about CVS, right? But okay, so we go there to buy physical things that will eventually end up in the trash. But what do we really want the most? Service, courtesy, some kindness, some help, some information. Can you see any of
yeah.
that? No.
Mm,
You're only seeing the portals by which what you really came there for,
right.
the portals that are being used for the information, the service, right? The wisdom, your question about your medicine, all of that. That's what you're there for.
Mm,
That's what you're
mm,
there for. But you can't see that. You can't see the kindness, but
mm,
that's really what you're there for, though. Because if you
yeah.
don't get it, you notice it, right?
Mm. Oh man, spitting the truth right here. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything you said is so true. So now I wanted to ask about your poetry. How did poetry begin for you? Was it something like you found it or it found
Mm.
you? Like how did that all start for you?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. Great question. No, it not only found me, it came here with me.
Okay.
I have no doubts about that. It's not a poetic thing to say. It just, I know that it came here with me, because I wrote my first, serious poem at 8 years old,
Mm,
right? Not knowing, not knowing that it had a genre. I'm 8. I'm doing what came natural to me to express
mm,
myself about something, right? Um, and so it came here with me. So it didn't really have to find me. It feels more to me like a contract that I
okay.
made with it. Yeah, that I would do this because you you people have to know I've been writing all my life, never making a penny, and not only that, no one hardly ever read my poetry but my mother until
Oh
I
wow.
got on Instagram, right?
Wow.
But I was still writing though, right?
Mm,
Because that just was who I am. It's just who I am, right? And so it gave me a way where when I didn't feel like, when I felt that maybe my emotions or my feelings were more complex than I could have explained to someone, I would write a poem.
wow.
And my mother and I had such a close relationship and such trust, right? That I was a teenager who I could show my mother how I was feeling,
Wow.
right? I didn't have to be afraid of my mother's judgment. I was very, very fortunate,
Wow.
right? So I always showed my mother my work, and she would say, we got to do something with it. And I would say, no, we don't.
Mm.
No, no.
I think everything takes timing. I think it was. I think your
Mm.
mom had the right
Yeah.
idea, but just not right there that minute. I think it was called for a time like this, where
Yeah.
now Instagram came in,
Mm-hmm.
and now people are reading your pieces. You're interacting with people who have the like mindset as you do, and I think that's the vision your mom probably had. I mean, did we know it was Instagram? No, but I knew your mom because
Right.
it's like we were saying before. There was a purpose for something, and that's why I love doing what I do, because
Mm.
everybody has a story to
Yeah.
tell. We just need a place
Yes.
to tell it, right? And
Right.
then once we have the place to tell it, now it's a conversation to be had, because we are living in a time where unfortunately we're told to shush, right? Because when
Right.
I was growing up, I already had all the shush, but now I'm growing up into a time like, wait, we're doing this again?
Yeah.
Like, well, what's going on here? Like
Right.
we're being told to shush, and now I'm an adult, and you're telling me I can't talk about that? Like,
Right.
wait,
Right.
I
Right.
thought we passed
Yeah.
that. I thought we passed all that.
Right.
What's
I
going on
know.
here? I just think civilization is just too sensitive too. That's part of it, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
It's my opinion too.
It's just some, but it's just crazy to think like I thought we were past all that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
here we are back at it again. So now I
Right.
believe that we, as poets, are called to be in a time where now we have to be loud. And if we weren't loud before, we have to be a little louder, because there
Right.
are things that need to be said. There are things that need to be addressed.
Right.
There's a lot of elephants in the room. Let's just call it
Right.
what it is.
Right.
And it's like because we're living in a time where people want to sweep on the things underneath the
Oh
rug. And it
yeah.
was something you were talking about earlier about having in the back of your mind and pretend it doesn't exist. No, it does
Right.
exist. You just want to sweep it underneath the rug so you don't have to deal with it. It's the same
Right.
thing with our issues, with our
Right.
sins, or whatever we're dealing with. The more you sweep it underneath the rug, or you try to lock it in the closet, the more it's going to
Right.
pile up. What's going to happen
Right.
once it piles up? The door
Yeah.
is going to break. You put too
Right.
much dust underneath the door, underneath the rug. Eventually, it's gonna pile up,
Yes.
and then now you're gonna have a dent in your rug, or like not
Right.
like a little bump. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
what's that? That's why I say sometimes the green.
True.
That's why I always say to me, my wife always has a conversation. A lot of times in life, the grass is not always green on the other side. And if everything's too green, I would watch out for that, because
Yeah.
you can have some fake grass
Yes.
and you're covering
Yes.
use the fake grass to cover the dirt that you're trying to
Yes.
hide because you want to be perfect. It's not about
Yes.
perfection. It's not about
Yes.
that. It's
Yeah.
about having the ability to understand, hey, this is what it is. This is my vulnerable place. But please, like, if you and I are like minded, let's join this journey together, and let's be
Right.
loud. Let's talk about this,
Right.
because there are things that need to be talked about. There's conversations that need to be had, and
Yeah.
again, we're living in a time now. Everybody wants to shush us again after all these
Yes.
years of being shushed.
Right.
I,
Right. 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 And I certainly thought that all of that was over and done with.
mm-hmm.
But right now we are living in pure censorship, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is that a lot of the things that are hurting our children emotionally and mentally on the internet,
Yeah.
a lot of the things that are, messing with the psyche of adults on the
Mm-hmm.
internet are allowed to be
Yeah.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
But the moment the moment there's like a whisper of truth in something, the moment there is like a whisper of, ooh, that's knowledge, right? Then all of a
Mm.
sudden, people are sensitive. All of a sudden, the
Yeah.
algorithm is now sensitive. Okay, so I find that to be, really totally completely planned, strategic, right? Censorship, right? If it were that important that we don't hurt each other, okay, then we wouldn't have a world full of porn. Can I say that word?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
fills that fills and fills the pages of the internet to the point where you can search for something innocently and
Yeah.
then come up with stuff and you're like, what?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
trying to find a recipe one day.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay,
I blame
right?
TikTok for that too.
Yeah, right. But this is where our future is
Yeah.
is living, right, on these platforms. And so they are the ones that have the most access because they're going to find it even if you try not to give it to them. Come on.
Yeah. Because
A
everything's free
6-year-old
now.
can, yeah, like,
Yeah. No, but it's so true. No, but it's so true because me and my wife, so we have to monitor what my son watches because they say you can watch Peppa Pig, but then something similar and it's a little demonic or it's a little, oh wait, what's this?
yes,
Why is he spitting this out? Like what's
right,
that? Like, and I was like, oh, we gotta block. The more you block it, the more it appears, I noticed
yeah,
too. And what you said about the pornography is the same thing. It's a lot of filth now more than it's because back when I was growing up, to access something like that, you had to pay for it or somebody knew somebody that had it,
right,
right?
right,
Now, in a click of a
yeah,
finger like that, it's
yeah,
easy access. But it's getting to the point that you don't even have to go to these websites for that because there's
all
people
right,
doing it on social media, which is
right,
insane to me. I
right,
would have
right,
never thought. I would have never thought that was the thing. And it's so true. But you know what I love about what's going on now? There are certain people who used to do porn that bring in awareness. Oh no, this is not what it really
right,
looks like. And then
right,
there's one guy,
right,
I forgot his name. He became a born again Christian and he actually talks about his experience in the industry, but he talks about these are all the women and all the men who have died doing what they
right.
do because of either anxiety or harming their bodies and all these
Yes,
things
yes. Oh,
and
yes.
he had a whole list of people,
Oh,
and it was a
yeah.
whole lot.
I can believe it. Oh, I can believe it. Yeah, right. I mean, listen, all you had to do is think about it for a moment. But how can you how can you abuse yourself and allow yourself to be that abused and not eventually fall apart in some way, not
Exactly.
eventually be unhealthy in some way? There's no way you're going to tell me that the women in this game, I don't know about the men, I'm not a man, okay,
Right.
but the women in this game, there's no way you're going to tell me that you're not in pain, that you're not damaged, that you're not hurt, that something didn't go on before this that made you feel unworthy to do something
Mm-hmm.
else. You're not going to feed me that story. Okay, there's trauma there,
Mm-hmm.
there's trauma there, right?
Oh yeah.
you know but it's allowed, though, like you said, it's all over social media, you know and thank goodness I control my feed enough that I only see
Right.
what I want to see. you
Right.
know I mean, it's very easily for you to slip and slide with that algorithm. Like, you look at one thing that seems innocent and then they think you want more. But yeah, no, they can come across it very, very easily. And so these things, though, they're not censored, though. Yeah. The
Yeah.
big money
It's interesting.
making industry. Mm-hmm.
Sorry
Oh,
about that.
water. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, but no, it's so true, right? Because I think the things we should censor are not censored, and the things that need to be censored aren't being censored. Wait, did I say that? You know what I think you know what I meant by that.
I know what you
What
mean.
needs to be censored is not
It's not
censored, and the
censored.
things that should be censored are not censored. And it just, I don't know, I just don't get it, to be honest
Well,
with you, because
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're living in an upside down world, right now.
yeah,
Right. In many ways. And I mean, listen, I believe, what I'm pretty sure it was Nina Simone that said, the purpose of an artist, right? The job of an artist should be to reflect the times
mm,
that they're living in. So, so if you are an artist of any kind and you are not in some way reflecting the times that you're living in, she said, well, I'm not sure what you're doing. I'm not sure what
mm,
you're doing. And I say, I'm not sure what you're doing. Okay?
mm,
Whether you're a photographer, a poet, a writer of science fiction, right? You can weave a message into anything if you have a message. You can weave it in to anything, right? So so this is the time that even though we do live in this upside down world, right? Because it needs to be right now. And that's a whole other interview. That's a whole other interview, right?
right.
It needs to be because you can't build a new building on top of a dilapidated one. So what do you
Mm,
have to do with the dilapidated building? You have to go in, put bombs in, and implode it. See, I watched this when I'm from Philly. And so when they were taking down all the old projects, they used to put it on the news. It was
mm,
exciting, right? And so they would say 10 o'clock, whatever the project was, is coming down. And so they would put the bombs inside, and then you would hear a noise and the building would crumble. And then
mm,
6 months later, there's like new homes there, right? But you can't build that on top of something that's dilapidated. So I say
right.
that to say that those that are fearful, don't be fearful, right? Because yes, right now we're looking like a dilapidated building, right? But there is a new building coming. But you
Mm,
got to get rid of the
mm,
rubbish first, right? You
this
got
is
to
true.
move all that stuff out of the way. You got to clear the land, right?
Mm,
So that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So if we're artists, somewhere in our work, someone should be able to read us 200 years from now and know what times we were living in.
yeah. Mm, mm, yeah. Oh my God. And I love that. It reminded me of this Bible verse that says, you can't take new wineskins and mix it with old wineskin. And it's always
Right.
interesting because me and my wife was talking about this the other night. What's
Yeah.
old can be mixed in with the new because eventually something gets contaminated, right?
Right.
And then you're
Right.
contaminating some old stuff with some new stuff. And yeah, you'll have, fine, like you'll have this notebook, but I can't have new paper and old paper mixed in together and think, oh, I'm going to sell this and be
Yeah.
profitable because at the end of the day,
Right. Right. Exactly.
because
Exactly.
the issue with that is, yeah, I'll have a notebook, but the value
The
of it
value
won't be the
is
same
decreased.
as something, yeah, exactly, in opposed to something that has a bigger value,
Right.
right? So sometimes it's not about how much something is, but it's the quality,
It's the
it's the
quality.
the yes, exactly, of this. And it's so
Yes.
true what you said. Oh
Yes.
man.
Yeah.
So I
I
did
mean,
want Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say, you're absolutely right. Like, this is scientific, but we've all seen it in our house. If you take a bowl of fresh fruit and you put one bad piece of fruit in there, it will spoil all the good fruit,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't
Yeah.
work the opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a bowl of spoiled apples and you put a fresh one in there, what's going to happen? That one fresh one is going to spoil.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
Mm.
got to get rid of the spoiled apples and start
Yeah.
anew. Right.
But it's so crazy you said that, because I always wonder why that is, because you would think if something, let's say something spoiled, you put something
Right.
good, then it's a spread out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that
It
way.
doesn't
But
work
life
that
is
way.
sometimes like that. It
Yeah.
is like sometimes life is like that
Yes.
too, which is interesting, because it's like, because it also reminds me of this whole, bad company sometimes corrupt the good
Right.
character of a person.
Right.
Oh, somebody said it in the comments, bad company corrupts good character. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
it always been, yeah,
Exactly.
because the way that scripture reads to me is, you are what you surround yourself
Yeah.
with. So if you're a
Yes.
positive person but you're surrounded by negative people, sometimes
Right.
your positivity is not gonna always attract
Right.
people. Sometimes you absorb the
You absorb.
negativity of the people
Exactly.
around you, and
Exactly.
now become like, oh, now you're part of the issue
Yes.
now. Before you wanted to stand out, but now you ended up blending in. I
Right.
believe not just people of God, but also us as poets, as people who have words. I don't believe that we're called to blend in. I think we're called to stand out.
Oh yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just how can we implement that without corruption, right? Because sometimes corruption leads to compromise, and when you compromise, now you're
Right.
compromising your
Right.
self-respect.
Right. Well, there is a way that you can do that, and it's by understanding that first of all, we need our egos as long as we are in the human avatar. Okay, let
Right,
me first say that. Now let me break it down. Okay. We have these leaders, these spiritual leaders and writers and everything that tell you that they have eradicated the ego, or your goal is to eradicate the ego. However, the ego is what told me, Andy said, this time, you see, so I need to be on this time. Tomorrow I have a doctor's appointment. Tomorrow I have to go to work. Tomorrow I have to do this. That's the purpose of the ego. So first, we need to understand the purpose of the ego, okay, and what it's
mm,
used for, and that we control it. Is when we start allowing the ego to drive drunk, okay, instead of getting in the back seat, right? Then that's when things go awry. That's when we start compromising ourselves, because then
mm,
we're trying to be more than the art, right? We're trying to be more than the work,
mm,
right? So if we
mm.
know, if we understand the
Come
purpose
on.
of the ego, then we can put the ego in its place. And when we need it, we can say, hey, come on out. And then when we don't need it, we can say, get back.
Come on, say that. Oh my God. Oh man. Wow.
And then you don't have to
I
compromise yourself. You
that's
don't
true.
you don't have to compromise yourself. This world wants us to believe that to be heard in some way, you have to compromise yourself, right? Because that's what it's trying to show us now,
Right,
right? It's saying,
right.
see all those people you admired, they compromise themselves,
Mm,
right? Okay. But we can look at that and say that was a personal choice,
right.
right? they
Yeah.
they they were not enslaved to compromise themselves. They made that
Mm,
choice. But you can be heard and have your message heard without compromising yourself if you know and learn. This is about Like, don't stop learning. Learn the purpose of
Amen.
the ego and stop believing everything you read as if that person is better than you are, as if they have a connection to God that you don't have. You have it.
Yeah,
Okay? You've got to cultivate it, though.
that's
You
true.
got to cultivate it. So stop being lazy.
That's true.
Stop being
Because
lazy.
everybody's relationship is different. It's true. Everybody's
Right.
because I is that there was a saying that somebody had said to me that like you and I could be at the same place at the same time, but we experience that situation differently
Differently.
because our perspectives are
Right.
different. We should
Right.
like we have a I always believe in there's no such thing as a same perspective, it's a similar perspective,
Similar.
but we
Right.
both is similar but not the same because if
Right.
everything was exactly the same it wouldn't matter. I
Right.
think if it's similar that makes a lot more sense only to a point where because there's always another perspective of something that we saw, so because maybe there's a detail that I might have missed but you
Right.
saw
Right.
and vice versa. But
Definitely.
people don't want to talk about the details. Everybody wants to be all like, "Oh no, this is it and that's it."
Right.
I'm sorry, but I don't believe in anything being one-sided. Nothing should be
No,
one-sided, in my
no, not
opinion, because
and
if everything's just one
nothing
way,
is.
that's it.
Right, right. Nothing and nothing is, and I think that's beautiful actually about the human experience because you're exactly right. You and I could be the same place, same event. And then when we leave and somebody says, "How was it?" We got two different answers. And like you said,
Exactly.
sometimes it might be similar, but it's not the same because you did notice something that I didn't, and I might have noticed something you didn't.
Right.
And that to
But
me, though,
yeah,
is the beauty. That's the beauty.
yeah. Yeah, because we learn and we grow from
Yeah.
each other like that. And I feel like
Yes.
that's what civilization is
Right.
missing today. Like, that's what's kind of bothering me about this society. It's missing that.
Right.
Like, the authenticity behind that, it's missing. And I think that's why, I get like we were talking about before earlier, why we need to have these conversations because it's so
Yes.
true. And it's like no one wants to talk to each other anymore because everything's through
I
like, oh, we're
know.
gonna text, okay,
I
hey,
know. I
no,
know.
like no one
Yeah.
plays outside
Right.
anymore. Like if you go to New York, like there's not a lot of handball courts anymore. There's not a lot of playgrounds like
Right.
that. Everything's gentrified, and I'm like, yo, what's going
Right.
on here?
Right.
Correct? Because I feel like New York City lost its form of community. I go to Jersey because I live in Jersey now, but it's like such a big difference. Even though they're considered part of New York, I don't know how
Yes.
that's even a thing,
Well,
but
yeah.
there's
I'm
still
from Philly. I
culture
know.
there.
I know. I know. Yeah. Like everything is like Philly, Jersey, Connecticut is all New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I know. Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah. New York is it's totally a different world, than it was, when I was growing up. And we used to go see my aunt Stacy all the time. And it, I mean, none of it's really the same. It's a lot
yeah,
different. The energy is different. Yeah. Yeah. And they're going through a lot, like everybody and
yeah.
everything, you know
Oh yeah,
a lot of growing pains,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
I really feel like New York, because I feel like there's an identity issue now. I feel like they lost their
Mm,
identity. That's what I feel like New York has
mm,
become.
mm.
Because yeah, it's the Big Apple. Okay, but what does that mean now? Like that
Now,
doesn't really
yeah.
much. That doesn't mean nothing now. Like you see, everything's like, oh, we gotta be better. We gotta be good. We gotta be good. But you know how much money that costs. You know how much rent
Right.
is now these days.
Right.
If you ain't getting Section 8, guess what? You're not surviving New York. I was there my entire life, and I've been in Jersey for 6 years now. Where's this now? What I mean, I still love New York because that's where I'm from. I love the
Right.
scenery, but when I live there again, no, absolutely not.
Yes.
I only go there
Yeah.
now if I'm not going to Times Square just to like look around the scenery or go check out the stores. Then I'm gonna go to my mom's house. That's really
Yeah.
why I go there for. Because my mom lives in
Right.
Brooklyn, but even Brooklyn is like, okay, this doesn't feel like Brooklyn. I feel like I'm in Manhattan. Everywhere I go, I feel like
Yeah.
Manhattan's become
Oh,
this
right.
thing.
I,
It's
I
like
mean,
what?
all of it is like, really trying to be Manhattan, right? I mean, Manhattan used to stand out. When my mom and I would
Yeah,
go get on the train, we go to Manhattan, and we was like, okay, we go to Manhattan, we're going to shop, we're going to eat, and then we'll go to Brooklyn and see your Aunt Stacy,
Right.
like that.
But
And
everything's a copy now. Everything's a carbon copy. That's what the
yeah,
situation is.
yeah,
Because now everywhere looks exactly the same.
same,
And
right, right,
it's crazy.
right.
That's why I really believe that New York lost their identity, because when it was Brooklyn, it was Bronx, that like
And,
those were different vibes.
yes.
But
Oh yeah.
every part of those things of New York had their own identity, right?
Oh
Because certain
yes.
parts of Staten Island there was mafia. Some of them didn't have that.
Right.
Some, what I'm saying, even certain parts of Queens, they have mafia, but there was different niches of that. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, there was
Yeah.
always some form of community. But now, even if community still exists, it's hard to
Yeah.
tell because the
Right.
appearance
Right.
has
Right.
been so
Right.
alike. I go
Right.
to Queens, I feel like I'm in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like it looks just like
Yeah.
Manhattan. It's insane.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of it, on YouTube and everything. I haven't been back east in a very long time, but definitely from what I've seen, you're absolutely right, right. And you're not the only person. You're not the only New Yorker I've heard say that, and they left as well. They
Yeah.
left as well. A lot of people are going to Atlanta. you know
Yeah.
it's not my vibe, but I can understand why
Yeah.
you would go to Atlanta. um but yeah, a lot of people have left that, thought they were native New Yorkers, you know what I mean, and I'm never going to leave New
Yeah.
York, and then they were like getting
Mm.
out of there. They're
Yeah.
getting out of there.
I know people who live in Texas, they live in Florida. I know people who live in Ohio, they're from New York. Like when I went to North Carolina years ago, I went to this elevation church thing that they had over there, and the Uber drivers and people I've interacted with, they were former New Yorkers. They were
Oh,
like,
right.
"Yeah, New York kicked our
Yeah.
asses." I was like, "Oh, damn." It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And they're more happier, they're more stress free, and
Oh
that's what
yeah.
it is. Like there was an article that came out in the New York Post that said that a lot of New Yorkers are leaving New York to go to Texas. There's something about
Yeah.
Texas over there. Everyone, and it was on the New York Post recently. My brother showed it because he lives in Fort Worth, and he was telling me
Oh, that's
it's such a different vibe. Because there's certain things they do in New York that in Texas they don't play that, like
yeah.
gender
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
and all that. Texas
Yeah.
don't play that shit.
I mean, I'm not really sure, what is attracting like a New Yorker to Texas. No, nothing wrong with Texas. Oh my
Too
gosh. No, I'm not saying
much, too
anything
much,
is
too
wrong with
much,
Texas. Texas is
too
great.
much, too much.
You
It's too hot.
know, yeah, it is hot. It is hot. It is hot. Yeah. And that's not for me. But I'm just saying, the difference between the vibes, right?
Hmm.
I'm not sure why a New Yorker or somebody from Philly would go to Texas. But then again, I'm in New Mexico, so who knows?
Right, right.
Who
Oh
knows?
man, I've never been to New Mexico, but my sister has a friend that lives in New Mexico. She's been there a few times. She says she loves it over there.
It's
I was like,
beautiful.
okay, hey,
It's beautiful, Andy. But honestly, I've been here for 10 years, and I'm really ready to go back to someplace more metropolitan, and so that's my
okay,
plans for this year. Because I definitely do miss the city vibe. I'm a little remote. I'm not like in Albuquerque or anything
ah,
like that. I'm in northern Tex. I'm in northern New Mexico, which is
okay,
closer to Colorado, right?
right,
So
right,
right,
okay,
so it's remote, it's gorgeous, you know but 10 years I did it, I did it.
yeah.
And yeah.
Because because the part of Jersey I live in Bayonne, so it's mostly like it's an like you have to have a family to live there because
Yeah.
to be a single person living there,
Yeah.
there's just no way because the atmosphere is mostly retired people or people
Right.
who used to be in war or you just have families living there, right? Because I live in a house now.
Yes.
Before I used to live in an apartment building, I live in a house, and it's like so even though there's all these suburban areas, right? But there's one strip, it's called Broadway, and they still gives me that sense of New York City-ish, but not too crazy. So
Right.
you got the
Right.
stores, you got the stores, department stores you can go to. Okay, so I get a little bit of everything. So I love
Yeah.
Bayonne because of that. One thing I think is missing in Bayonne, I always talk about this in my life. There's no art over there, so that's why I'm using my platform to try to bring art. I had my first in-person open mic in one of the places in
Oh,
Bayonne, and
yeah.
I do plan on doing more soon this year because that's in the ghost. I do a little more shows this
Yeah.
year because I want to bring art to Bayonne because I don't want Bayonne to be known as, oh, it's a very politically correct town. Like,
Right.
yeah, okay, maybe that's true, but maybe if we can add more, do something different because the first time we did it, it was such a success, and the place we went to, like, oh my god,
Yeah.
you gotta do another one, and it's
Right.
like
So,
we need
yeah.
because yeah.
No, I was just say obviously there's a need and a want, right, for it. Um, if people are showing up, right? So obviously they're craving it, in that area. And I know what you mean. I don't think New Mexico, where I live anyway, is a place for somebody single that is still very social and wants to be active and wants to go hear poetry and read poetry and all it. This is not the place. This is not the place for that. I came here with my best friend, my dear spirit sister Andy. you know and
Okay.
so now that Andy, Andy and I could have fun anywhere, right?
That's
But now
beautiful.
that she's passed on, there's really nothing to connect me here, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big
Wow.
It's a big difference in the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. So, because we are almost towards the end, I did want to ask you one question. I have two questions left I want to ask you. One of them, it is about your book. I'll just show it here. I wanted to ask you, like, the cover.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you come up with the cover? What was
Right.
the idea? What was the story behind it, and why?
Okay. So it's called The Beauty of Dead Roses, right? Um, I I have always I've always loved taking pictures of roses when they dry and wilt.
Mm,
There was always something magical about that. I could never throw them away, right? But the dead roses and the beauty are representative of my ancestors. So what it's
okay.
really saying is that even though they're not here, through me they still had something to say, right?
Mm,
And like many of the poems in that book, were like they woke me up, like they woke
oh
me up.
wow.
Yeah.
Mm,
And I had to write them, and I didn't have to think about it. It's like the words were sitting waiting for me, and I would say some nights I'll remember it in the morning, and it was like they were saying, no
mm.
you won't, no you won't, you know and so often I got up in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m.,
Mm,
um just to write, because there was a lot I felt that they had to say. I felt like I was speaking for the voiceless, and also, though, I was speaking for myself, my own pain of knowing. My mother was an activist, you see.
okay.
So this came to me through her. It was natural. It was natural. And so she was the one who taught me our history. I didn't need to go in a book, right? I've read
Come
books, but
on.
I heard it firsthand. I don't need to see the movie of Emmett Till. I learned the story of Emmett Till when I was like 9 years old, because I had a book in the house
Mm,
that had Emmett Till's story in it. And I
mm,
never forgot what I saw.
wow.
You see, I already knew that. So I don't need Hollywood to tell me about my
Yeah.
history, right? My
Yeah.
parents did
Especially if
that.
they don't have, especially if they don't have the like I don't want to say proper knowledge, but sometimes I feel like they don't always have the proper knowledge, and I also feel like when Hollywood tries to create something as their own, they don't have the original roots of it,
Right.
you know, and I think
Right.
when you hear it from someone that actually experienced it
Right.
or they were around the time that it happened,
Right.
it's a big difference,
Yes.
major difference,
Yes.
because it's the same thing with like even in Jewish culture, right? With Anne Frank, okay, she actually lived, that's why
Right.
she wrote the book, right?
Right.
But then you meet people in person that knew family members that were part of the Holocaust, and they can tell
Right.
you themselves, no, but this
Right.
is what it actually was. And even though the majority of the things are true or whatnot, but here's what they didn't tell you.
Yes.
Here's what it really, you know what I'm saying? And I think
Right.
that's also important. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier, the
Right.
details. It's always about the details, because there's always details that we have to pay
Right.
attention to. I definitely believe in that. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
amen, amen.
And what I didn't like about the trailers of Till, right, the story of Emmett Till, was that they decided to take this detour to make the story about Emmett's mother, right, and what she did after his murder, which was courageous and heroic, yes,
Right.
but what people needed to see was the horror. You want to tell a horror story, let it be true.
Yeah.
Like let it be about the life of this boy. He was a teenager, right? A teenager accused of something that, do you know, Andy, about 7 years ago, the woman that accused Emmett Till of whistling at her, she died in her 90s. And on her deathbed, she said it never even happened.
Wow.
She made the entire story up. It's only about 7 years ago. We were in New Mexico when I read it.
Wow.
She lived she lived to be in her 90s. She lived with this from the 50s. Okay? And
Wow.
she never had an interaction with Emmett Till. She
Mm,
waited
mm.
until she was about to die and said that not only did he not whistle at her, nothing happened. She was upset
Wow.
because Emmett came from Chicago, and he was dressed like we used to say, to the nines. He was dressed like a Chicago brother. So she was upset at his pride in himself.
Wow.
This was just 7 years ago she died. But did
Wow.
Hollywood tell anybody that saw the movie? I want you to tell me if they told that part,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
So
It's
I don't
wow.
need I don't want to hear people saying to me, "Oh, you need to see Till." No, I don't. I saw Till at 9 years old in a book that my mother bought as a collection of books.
Mm,
Okay,
mm.
I learned about Till when I was 9 years old, and I'm 56. So I don't need Hollywood to tell me his story. I know his story. I told his story in a poem back
Mm.
in the back in the OG days.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wait, all right, so before we end, do you have it on you and read it?
No, I don't. I don't have
Uh,
Till on me. No. I don't know where
next time,
I
next
don't know where
time.
that poem is.
Oh my God. Oh man. Okay, so let's all right, so we definitely eventually gotta do a part two for this, because this is really, really good. And I love that. Especially now we have something more to talk about Till. I really want to know more about Till. Um, because we are towards the end now. So I always ask everybody this question. And I wanted to ask, when you're not here anymore, we're not here anymore, in this life. When people hear your name, Rain the Creator, what is it that you want people to remember you by? What do you want to leave behind? You what impact do you want people to remember you by?
Right. Um. Uh. It's looking in the chat. Much love. Um. Wow. You know, I'm just going to say that the very first thing that came to my mind, because I think it's the most authentic, and I'm not going to overthink it. I think that what I would want people to say is that Rain was honest, and she tried her best to be truthful. And no, she wasn't perfect at it,
Hmm.
but truth was very important to her. Not only about her work, right? Not only about what she wrote about, but also who she was, and that she was okay if you didn't like her, because
Wow.
as long as you told the truth about her, she was cool, right?
Hmm.
She was cool with that, and she wrote because she had to.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow. Ah, God. Wow. Rain, thank you so much. First of all, it was just great to reconnect with you, and
Yes, so most
because I'm
definitely.
like, oh man, because
I
all this
was
started
like,
was okay. Yo, for real. I was like, yo, the 20, for those who are just joining us, especially like the new people who are here, me and her go way back, 2020, man. Like Etsy
mhm.
Poetic Revolution
We was
days,
on
Poets Anonymous
like
days.
every day. Nobody couldn't do anything or go anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pandemic days. That was Instagram was such a like I think we broke the algorithm at that time because it was
It was,
crazy.
I know it was crowded and crazy. It was crowded and
Yeah.
crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were just on here doing our thing like all the
Yeah.
time, like doing our thing. It was like a full-time job, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my case, I was because I had lost my job too. So the for the 5 months that I was home, yeah, I was collecting unemployment. But I said, you know what, I'm gonna do something useful. I was doing this platform when it was under a different name, jammed them down, and I was doing
Yeah.
these
Yes,
lives.
I
Oh my
know.
God, it
I
was just
know. I
so
know.
crazy. Mm.
Jammed them down. That's where I met, the beautiful Z. Z did.
Yes,
Yeah.
Z
Well,
Zielinski.
we,
Yes.
yeah,
Ah.
Z and I connected. Yeah, we try to stay
Mm.
connected. We try to stay
Mm.
connected. Even like if we lose each other for a moment, we seem to always find each
Yes.
other because Andy, and I, and Z, like, I think we really had something special, and I
Yeah.
admire her. I think she's one of the best writers.
Oh,
I think
I
more
definitely
people.
agree.
Yes. I don't think that her glory needs to be sung a little bit more.
Yes.
She's an amazing writer.
Yeah.
Yes, and
I
a
love
beautiful
Z.
person. Yeah, I remember
Mm.
Jam Them Down. Yes, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, that
Oh
was so
my
cool.
God. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that the Jam Them Down was my original poetry page. And then when Your Heart Beats Loud closed the doors, then that's when it became a platform
Ah,
page. And then eventually it rebranded as Unraveled Influence back pretty much last year because I had once 2021 ended, I took a break, a mental health break,
yes.
and
Yeah, me too.
my wife's
I,
like, when 2022 starts, I expect you to start your podcast and platform again, and I didn't know it was going to become what this is
yeah,
today. This was a whole,
yeah, yeah. You just do. You know what I mean? Like you just do, right? I've heard like people that I admire say, I'm just obedient, right? I'm just
mm-hmm,
obedient. And life is easier because believe me, I have tried my best. I have that kind of nature. Like I came into this world like
yeah,
fighting, you know what I mean? And it's taken me a while, but I've learned now, just be obedient to the voice. Be
mm-hmm,
obedient. right? Be
Yeah,
obedient. And it's just a lot easier that way and a lot more peaceful
yeah.
that way. And you end up in the right place too.
Yo, amen. Yeah, obedience is definitely the key. I really believe in that, and even I struggle with that. But when in my
Yeah, I
case,
struggle.
when God says go, you gotta go. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
God
And you
says
know,
move, you gotta move.
right,
If He says stay, you stay. Be still, be still. You better obey, because when you don't listen,
right.
especially when something's trying to show you something, we miss
Yes,
out
right,
on what it
right.
is that God wants to talk to us about. It's oh my
Right,
God.
right. And you know, and sometimes when you don't listen, you're going to keep getting nudged a little bit harder every
Hmm.
time, right? You're like, what's
Yes.
going on?
Yeah.
Nothing's going right. Like, what?
Oh yeah. That was me last year, believe it or not. Like
Oh,
last
I've
year
been
when I
here
started
many times.
redoing the podcast again, when I started doing the platform again, um God was sending people my way, tugging at me. They were saying things that were kind of like striking a nerve. I was like, okay, 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 Lord, I get it. And these people I've never met, people who just jumped on my
Right,
live and then I ended up having an interview with, and it was just like, oh my God, like, okay, okay, so Lord, what are you trying to tell me? Here I am, your service is listening. I'm here.
right,
And it's like, but
right.
sometimes when the hard truth smacks you, you have to be
Oh,
obedient
yeah,
to that truth too,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's I'd rather the truth hurt me than a lie, because if I get hurt by a lie
Right,
and I know the truth later, that's worse.
right, right, right. Oh, yeah. You know what? Like, me and my relationship with the truth, we cool about that. We, you know what I'm saying? We cool about it. I'm like, you know, it don't always feel good. I'm good with it though, because in the end,
Right.
I know you love me, you know?
Amen.
So, you know, that's why I say, you know, I, I I am who I am, and you know what? I'm for some people, and I'm not for others, and that's okay. You know what I mean? It's like chocolate cake. You know what I'm saying?
Amen. Yo, I love that chocolate
some
cake. I
people
love chocolate
some people
cake.
love it. I'm not a fan, right? I'm not a fan of it at all. But you know, some people love it, and I'm like, good. You know, um,
Right.
but as long as I'm myself, you know, I don't mind being disliked for being myself. Are you kidding?
Amen.
Like we
Amen
said,
to
I would
that.
have a problem if I went through the trouble of being fake and then you don't like it. Now I worked and you still don't like it. No, no, it's too easy for me to be me.
Amen.
It is what it is.
Preach. Come on.
It's
It
it.
is what yo. It's so, oh my God. Yeah, I was just looking at the comments. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we take it for granted. Um, that's powerful. Be obedient to the voice. Yeah. And then Leon was saying how I feel
I
like I'm
miss
trying to
Leon too.
rediscover that. Yeah, Mr. Living Canvas. Oh
Right,
man, he was
right. I know.
definitely. Oh my God. Yes. So, Rain, thank you so much for doing this interview with
Thank
me.
you,
We
Lee.
definitely eventually have to do a part two. We definitely will
Oh,
keep in
sure.
touch. Thank you
Sure.
so much. Because these last
Sure.
couple of weeks, you have really made an impact in my life for the little bit that we reconnected, and I really appreciate you for that. Um, and this is what I live for. This is what I love.
I
Like
know it.
just conversation,
I know it.
speaking truth, and I live for this because
Mm,
like I
hmm.
really feel like this is my passion. I really feel like I'm called to do what I'm doing right now
Right.
because like other than what we're doing, there's no other place really that will allow us to speak our rawest truth because
Right.
everything's
Right.
filtered or only celebrities can have whatever. But it's like I wanted to be that. I don't care who you are, come
Right.
through. And we gotta do this with caution, of course. But regardless, people know I don't just bring just anybody on here, but I bring people who I feel like no, you guys have a story and it needs to be told, and this was exactly what this was tonight. So thank you so much,
I
Rain.
appreciate
I
you.
appreciate you
I
so so
appreciate you.
so much.
Yeah.
Any
Thank
last
you.
words before we end the live?
Uh, no, I just wanna thank everybody. Leon, I miss you. Yeah, I want to thank everybody who came through and who will come through. in the replay. And I just want to thank you, Andy, because I do know that this is your passion. I want you to know that it's very clear to some of us that this is your passion. It's very clear, right? So you don't even need to try. You just be you. You just keep being you. And so and
I received that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I really do. And so I just want to thank you. And it's just been a joy. It's just talking to a friend, you know what I mean? It's like, what more can you ask, right, of an evening,
Amen.
right?
Oh my
Thank
God, thank you so much. So thank you, Rain. Thank you everybody who showed up, and obviously people who watch the replay. Thank you, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your night,
you
and
too, my
see you
dear.
next week.
Tell you,
All right,
tell your wife I said hi.
will do. Will do. All right.
Bye bye. Thank you. See y'all.